Hello gays, this is your friend Saiyan Paradox Audio Fanfic and we are back in new fanfic. What if Dragon Ball Gohan was exposed as an alien, hunted by humanity, and forced to fight the entire world? Part 2. Vital's hands went to her hair with force, her hairstyle getting all messy on the process, and it was only showing how angry she was, if her face wasn't obvious at that point. She couldn't understand what happened through the night at all. She left the hospital with Arasa and Sharpener at evening, and in this afternoon there was no Son Gohan or Bulma briefs registered there. Damn it! She yelled in her spot at the stairs in front of the huge building. Sharpener, that was by her side, sighed heavily. He also was frustrated. After all, how could Gohan vanish like that? Kuririn had talked to them with such confidence that their friend would still be there in the next day, but he wasn't. Even at school, when they asked why the teacher didn't ask someone to give Gohan his homework, the man sighed heavily. Our school lost a brilliant mind yesterday. His uncle came and got him out the school. He said that Gohan had to be at home to recover from what happened to him. With that, he only let the three of them at the classroom completely lost of what he said. When they understood, however, they ran to the West City Hospital, but it was too late. Here, Arasa said while taking a sit near her friends on the stairs, handing them an orange juice for each. Maybe we should call his house again. Sharpener sighed at that. I tried it already. No answer again, it's like he vanished. How come the hospital didn't give you the info? You're vital, Satan. He then opened his juice and started to drink it with rage. Vital murmured something that the two didn't understand and also drank her juice. Arasa was unexpectedly quiet since they arrived. She was trying to understand what happened to their friend on the day before. His behavior after he got beaten by the alien, his features at the single room at the building behind them, all that showed them a different person. It was like someone new for her. Maybe we should try talking to Bulma. I mean, she was the one who gave the order at the hospital, right? The one that said, if someone asks about our whereabouts, tell them Capsule Corp is in charge of us now. Vital narrowed her eyes at Arasa. She did have a point, but did she know how hard it is to talk to one of the briefs? Even her being daughter of Hercule Satan didn't help. They always needed to make an appointment with weeks of precedence. But, having nothing more to try, she made her decision. Let's go to the CC gates. Maybe we can sneak inside or something like that. Her two blonde friends nodded and the trio got up together, a determined look on their features. Gohan stretched his muscles as he walked in one of the hundreds hallways that existed into the lookout, making little warm-ups time to time. He had two ways of putting his own thoughts in order: think in the dark or while training. The last one he was sure he got from his father. Dad, what should I do now? Is there some way out of this alien mess? At some point he decided to run. Thoughts about Wiki and the keepers keep coming to his trail of thinking, and also those keepers that were so alike, 17 and 18. The only person the Z Warriors were sure that knew about the two androids was Dr. Gero, but he was now dead. Maybe he had another laboratory that they didn't found out, but Wiki had. But would the projects be there? As his head started to ache, Gohan slowed down the running, slowing down until stopping finally. How he wished to know instant transmission now. He could go and ask 18 about some lab they didn't know at that time. Since he turned off his phone so his friends couldn't track him, he had no other way to talk with Kuririn and the others, aside Dend, who could use telepathy, but he didn't want to disturb him all the time just for that. It was when something hit him. He could just learn his father's technique. He knew the basics of it, but he was confident that with hard work he'd definitely learn it. With a huge smile he ran upstairs. He was going to ask Piccolo to be his mentor once more. Learn instant transmission, Piccolo said with one eyebrow raised high in his forehead. Did Goku started to train you to do that? Gohan scratched the back of his head with a little bit of nervousness. When we were training for Cell's games he started it, but as it wasn't the main point he stopped. He frowned sadly as the memory of his father teleporting away with the bio-android, the ground suddenly seemed interesting, more than his mentor's face. If I had learned it, maybe he wouldn't be dead. With Piccolo's sigh, he looked up with a smile, trying to hide the sadness inside him, but he knew it wouldn't trick the Namekian. Fine, I'll help you. Now the half-breed's smile was genuine. What I need to do? Bulma walked in what was left of her house. A mad face that could be matched with Vegeta's was making her workers avoid crossing her path. When she got in front of what used to be the GR, she sighed. Vegeta overdid this time for sure. Mom. The voice came from behind her. Trunks was following the blue-haired genius all morning to make sure she didn't scold anyone more than necessary. When she was mad or sad at Vegeta, she just discounted on anyone. Yeah, she asked, turning to him. There's 3 people at the gates. They came here after Gohan yesterday, so I think they came searching for him. He made a little pause. Because he ran away from the hospital. Bulma giggled at her son's behavior. Since she woke up, he was being a little more responsible. Did they see you? He looked away with a pout. Maybe. She giggled again. He was so adorable. Let them in, I'll talk to them. Trunks nodded and started to walk away, but stopped to look back with a frown to his mother. You will not tell them where he is, right? He asked us not to. Bulma smiled. I will not. Just bring them here. With that, he restarted his walk towards the gates. Sharpener was amazed at the view of the gates. Sure, he was inside on the other day, but the situation didn't let him look around. A few minutes ago, he saw the same kid that thanked his friend walking near the wreckage of the building, and he was sure he saw a blue-haired woman walking too. That made him shock his head. She should be hospitalized and not able to walk at all. While he was looking at the other side of the huge property, Arasa's voice made his eyes go to her. Look, it's that kid. He's coming this way. No. Vital and Sharpener looked at where she was pointing out with her index finger, and saw Trunks walking to them. He's coming to talk to us. A few moments later, Trunks was opening the gates. My mother wants to talk to you all. Please follow me. The blonde duo blinked. Your mother is? Bulma briefs. I saw him with her once, when I came to fix one of our jets. He was afraid of something at the time. Vital said, looking at him with a smile, and after a while Trunks's eyes widened a little. Oh, I remember you. Whoa, that day I was really screwed. He sweat dropped remembering the prank he did to Vegeta, and how angry he got. 3 days straight at the GR was really bad to his body. Anyway, come. My mom is busy, but she took a little time to talk to you. Shouldn't she be resting? She was in a bad shape yesterday, Arasa asked, concerned, but in response Trunks just shrugged, not sharing even a look behind him while walking. The trio walked after the kid, bad memories coming up as they passed by the place where Gohan got hit. Vital felt her heart get cold at the thought but took a deep breath. Now wasn't the time for that. Walking further forward, they noticed that the place was clearer than the day before, but all the wreckage was still there. I said to put it over there, not here. A sudden yell caught their attention, and with a few more steps they saw Bulma yelling at her workers for putting wreckage in the wrong place. Pay attention, or else you'll get the double work. With a hand on her face, she took a deep breath, and turning around she saw her son and the teenagers. Trunks, come here, now. He flinched. She was as scary as Vegeta. You want to talk to them here, Mom? He asked, unsure of her behavior. No, I need you to keep an eye on the workers so I can go inside and talk to them. I have a spare capsule house from occasions like this one, but we need first to clean all this mess. Her son made an mouth and nodded, and Bulma walked to meet the trio. To say that they were surprised to see the woman walking, it's a lie. They were amazed, scared, and then surprised. She had no scar of what happened to her on the day before, and nothing to even tell she was injured before it. Her beauty was intact, but her eyes were shining with sadness. It was as if something broke inside her. With a movement of her head, she made the trio follow her steps until Bulma entered a building with a number 1 wrote on it. A few more hallways ahead, they finally got inside of one of the rooms. It was a complete mess. What's supposed to be the desk was all covered by papers and projects, along with some prototypes of various capsules. Bulma sighed after looking at what should be the couch, which was full of metal pieces on top of it. Sorry. I was sure he did his clean up when I asked him. Damn that kid. Pardon me, but this is not your office. Arasa questioned and got as answer a confused Bulma. Huh. Gohan never told you guys about his job here. 3 pairs of eyes widened. This is his office. Was. Wait. You're saying that Gohan, son Gohan, is a worker here? Sharpener asked without hiding his surprise. Yeah, I'm surprised he didn't tell you guys, but again he was so busy since he started high school that his work accumulated. She then just walked to the couch, or what once was it, and put the garbage on the floor. For now, sit here, I believe we have a lot to talk about. Sharing shy looks, the trio went to the couch and sat down. It was a 2-people one, but they fit there perfectly. Bulma went to his desk and sat on his chair, looking at a photo frame into the only clean space on the table. Her eyes became sad, but she smiled before turning to them again. Ask. Where is he? Vital took the lead and asked the first thing on her mind. That took an amused smirk on the blue-haired woman. She had to tease Gohan afterwards. I cannot say. But she then took a yellow sphere out of the pile of things on Gohan's desk. I can give you means to find him, with one condition, of course. But for now, let's keep our talk. She started to play with the sphere, throwing up and down in front of her. Come on, nothing more. She looked disappointed. How do you know Gohan, and why? No, how does he even work here? We know that he is a smart guy, but, Arasa asked, eyebrows together in deep thought. She was trying hard to find the answers by herself. It's a long story, but when I was younger I went on an adventure. The trio looked at her with curiosity. At the time I was in search of something really rare and difficult to find by myself. It was when, in the middle of nowhere, I found his father. Well, he was a 12-years-old dumb kid at the time, not that he got smarter when he turned into an adult man. She laughed at the memory of Goku attacking her car because he thought it had eaten her. Well, we kept in touch after that, all of us. I guess world traveling tends to be a good way to make real friends. She looked again at the photo frame on the desk, but this time her eyes were full of nostalgia, the sphere now on her grip. As for how Gohan works here, or worked since he ran away, it's because he is a genius. Well, Chi-Chi knows how to educate her children. And now she started her play with the yellow sphere once more. Next. How come you're walking after what happened yesterday? Sharpener couldn't hold back anymore and yelled his curiosity out loud. Bulma blinked with surprise but giggled. Gohan had made interesting friends. Good one. I was expecting that this would be the first question. Vital's face turned red right away. As I said, I made a lot of friends in my journey. One of them has this medicine that can cure any injury, but unfortunately it can't heal any disease. So when my friends saw me like that, they went to get it for me. Looking at the kids, she noticed a common glare. She knew just what they were thinking. I can't sell the medicine. Why? It'd be a revolutionary thing in medicine. Bulma then got the sphere and firmly holds it with her hands, eyebrows together in a serious face. First of all, it's not mine for commerce. Second, it's not easy or fast to do it, and the stock he did went away as fast as we found out about it. We only used it on emergencies, but, well, we got in pretty bad shapes more than we should. A smile crossed her face. But then, are you saying that you were injured like that before? Sharpener asked with widened eyes. Oh no, I was more like the person who ran away from dangerous situations. Gohan's father and friends did the entire job. She laughed at all the memories that came with that. Memories continued to pop up and she started to tell the teenagers about her young days. They were amazed by the adventures she went, and how different Gohan and Goku were. Yes, they now knew his father's name, the person who was a forbidden topic at the Sun household, at least when they were visiting, was almost like an open book at Capsule Corp. Bulma talked about him with such pride and respect that the teenagers couldn't ask how he died and why it was a taboo to their friend. A smile crossed Vital's face as she heard more stories about Gohan, Goku, Kuririn and even Yamcha, also about a man called Vegeta. It was a really impressive friendship. I wish I could do a trip like that. Vital didn't notice she spoke until Bulma answered her. But you will do it. That snapped her out of her daydreaming. Just what the hell Bulma was talking about. I told you, I'm going to give you a way to find Gohan. But how? Why we need to travel the world? An evil smirk popped up on Bulma's face. You three are going to search for the Dragon Balls. To say that Vital believes in the legend of the Dragon Balls was a lie. Her mother always told her the legend when she was a kid. It was her bed story, and she loved the way that her mother explained it. She always did a theater, her fingers moving in a fast way, mimicking the magic to simulate when someone did wishes. Arasa and Sharpener loved to sleep at Vital's house, being this one of the motives, but they didn't believe in that either. The Dragon Balls just didn't exist. You really believe that those things are real? It's just a story for kids. The raven-haired teenager was the first to say out loud what they all were thinking. She couldn't believe that a grown-up woman still believed in something like that. Who said it's just a story for kids? Bulma said, crossing her legs, one hand still holding the sphere, and a huge smile on her face. When I first reunited them, I remember the wish coming true. And the other times too. Her smile turned into a smirk as the teenager's mouth opened. She just loved their reaction. Obviously the genius loved how normal humans react at true magic, Ki and aliens, even the last one making all the troubles they were facing now. How you three think that all people, who died because of Cell, came back to life? Now she was looking at the sphere with a soft smile. You couldn't be saying that, Sharpener said in a murmur. Yep. We wished them back. Their faces showed pure shock. One particular person didn't come back though, and that did a huge impact on all of us. But that's another story. With a deep breath she clapped her hand after putting the sphere on her lap. Now they could see that it seemed to have 4 stars inside it. Okay, so, I'll call your school today and tell the 3 of you will be doing an internship here for unknown time. I'll even send some scores of tests if you want to. Yes, was the reaction of Sharpener, who immediately received a hit on his ribs, courtesy of Vital. What? Someone here really needs good grades. She face-palmed. Is that what got your attention? Not the part of the unknown time. At that he blinked before doing an mouth shape, showing he did understand her point. Is it that hard to gather the Dragon Balls? Arasa asked, still looking at the glowing yellow ball at Bulma's lap. She was quite interested in it, as the stars inside it seemed to face her in any way she looked at it. She was in trance. I mean, we'd take that long to gather them. Bulma put her index finger on her mouth to think. If she went alone back in her times, it'd took forever to get all the Dragon Balls, but they had Vital, who is a fighter. Not as strong as Kuririn, but it should do, right? Or should she ask someone to go with them? There was also the keepers to be concerned about, as it was almost certain that they'd run into some aliens along their way. Maybe I should ask Kuririn to go with you. It can be dangerous after all. She grabbed the 4-star Dragon Ball and stood up. Come, I'll call your school, and Kuririn, so you guys can start right now. She was almost at the door when a female voice called her. Wait. As the blue-haired looked behind, Vital went ahead. How finding the Dragon Balls will help us to find Gohan? Oh, sorry, I thought I had explained that, my bad. She giggled. I'll give him this one, so you guys can find him once you gathered all the others' balls. At the quizzed faces she sighed. When I was young I built a radar that can show where the Dragon Balls are. You see, they emanate this particular energy, so I just isolated it and did the Dragon Radar. As you already know, this one is the 4-star, I'll just put into a box to block the energy, and when you gather the others you'll go directly to him. They frowned, but if this was the only way to find Gohan, they'd do that, even if it sounded absurd. Fine then. Let's wait for Kuririn, the trio said in unison. Oh, but what is the condition? Vital said, frowning. The woman didn't tell them yet. That, my dear, is something I have to tell you all after Kuririn arrives. An irritated growl could be heard through the lookout. Gohan had lost track of time since he started to try to get the handle of instant transmission because he kept failing to do it right. He was sitting at the edge of the place, while Piccolo was inside raising his ki in a small amount so Gohan could track him down easily. It wasn't working. Damn it! The yell caught the entity known as God attention, making him take his eyes from a family fight to see his best friend bury his face into his hands. Having a hard time, a smirk crossed his face and a sarcastic chuckle came along. The Demi-Saiyan didn't even notice that it had been 2 days since he started his training. All the time he was sitting there, at the edge of the lookout, stopping just to eat and bathroom sometimes. A muffled sound came as answer to his question and his chuckle turned into laugh. You know, you should give yourself a break. Like, why don't you go to a village or something? You're kidding, right? Gohan said, getting his hands out of his face and narrowing his eyes at the entity. If I wanted to walk with someone I'd do it with my friends. But I can't because I'm hiding. So I can't go out. Dend raised an eyebrow. Gohan was so dense sometimes that even he couldn't understand him. And why are you hiding again? Another annoyed sound came. Really, Dend? Are you really the Kami of Earth? Falling at his back, Gohan hit the floor of the lookout. I can't risk their safety. I bring danger to people around me, remember? His answer was a sigh. And how exactly you found that answer? Gohan sat again at that. Really? As Dend kept looking at him, the teenager took a deep breath. It all started when I was 4. Crazy uncle, ring any bells? Dend nodded. Saiyans came to Earth after my dad died. We go to Namek, which exploded, and Earth is attacked again. In all those I was present. Dend had to nod at that. Gohan really had a point, but it was all coincidence at his eyes. Everyone I care about is in danger. I couldn't save my father, I couldn't save Vegeta. He now looked at his own hands and clenched his fists in anger. I see your point, but Dend was cut off by Gohan's voice once more. Heck, I can't even confess to the girl I like because she may turn into a target if some crazy enemy appears. Dend widened his eyes. Even though he is known as God, he never knew Gohan liked someone. Wait, what? You do like someone? Immediately the Demi-Saiyan's face turned crimson. He let his guard down and spoke something he shouldn't. No, I mean, yes. It's complicated. Again he buried his face in his hands, making his voice came out muffled. I can't have someone special. It's too dangerous. I decided to bury it inside me and don't tell anyone, so please, keep it a secret, okay? Looking at the way his friend was acting, Dend couldn't help but agree. He always knew that the difficult childhood Gohan had did let some scars on his personality, but until now he didn't know how deep they were. His friend acted well to make sure everyone believed he was fine, and it worked. It was so deep that he would push everyone he cares about away, to save them. Are you two chatting, again? I should be more severe with both of you. Piccolo's voice came into their minds, making the duo flinch. The oldest Namek knows how to be scary when he wants to. I was taking a break, sorry. Back into the training. Gohan answered fast and started over. Dend didn't reply to Piccolo, instead he kept looking at his friend with a mix of emotions. Deep wounds. But is he really wrong? He was born with an immense power, but that just made things worse. With a sigh he turned his attention to the earth bellow. Since Wiki got Vegeta, the keepers kept it low, no charging at aliens since then. Den could only think that something bad was about to happen, and he wished he was wrong. Every day, for 1 hour or more, he was dedicated in trying to find Vegeta in secret. He even tried to keep an eye on Wiki, but it turned out impossible, or the man knew how to control his ki, or he had some device that made him untraceable. Either way, it was frustrating. The rest of his day he just looked over the earth and, since 2 days ago, he found a new way of entertainment: watch Gohan's friends, plus Kuririn, travel in search of the Dragon Balls. They got pretty far until now. Bulma's new moving house was doing its job pretty well, and Kuririn was trying his best to not spill everything out about Gohan, himself, and the rest of the gang. 18 was now living with them at the lookout, Maroon too of course. They couldn't just stay at Kame's house and wait for the keepers to find them. When she arrived, Gohan asked her about Dr. Gero's labs, but for his surprise she knew nothing, but she also said that her memory could have been erased for the doctor's own safety. She and her brother were unstable after all. So the half-breed went back to his training and stood there since then, while her husband called every night to know how her day was. Dend actually thought it was really sweet of the bald monk. Now the short man was driving by a desert, the dragon radar pointing to their first Dragon Ball. Bulma sent Trunks to the lookout 2 days ago with a box that could contain the energy of the Dragon Ball of 4 stars, and asked him to just open it when the group got the other 6. She had told them that she'd help them find Gohan after all. Den smiled. What was going to happen next? Vital narrowed her eyes at the fridge. There was only water and a few fruits now, and she had high hopes for the next town for supplies. In the end she got a bottle of water and sat on the couch. She sure was enjoying her time away from the city and all the crimes that surrounds it. No one was going to call her this time, so she could finally relax. Kuririn was driving for a few days now. He said that he didn't want any of the 3 of them to drive, even they knowing how. It was something about Bulma doing some crazy experiment with the capsules that made he do that decision. With a smile, Vital looked at her friends. The moving house wasn't giant, but it wasn't small either, as they still had plenty of space for furniture even after the huge widescreen. Sharpener and Arasa were playing some fighting video game, and for her surprise the one whining was the blonde female. Vital laughed at Sharpener when he lost for the 10th time. It was then that he finally gave up and convinced Arasa to watch a movie instead. At some point the brunette grew tired of the movie, as she had watched it a few times back at her home, and sat by Kuririn's side. So, how long until the first Dragon Ball? She said while looking at the dragon radar. Kuririn chuckled. I see you're anxious, huh? As the girl nodded he smiled. Don't rush it, follow the flow and learn things. You all will grow up in the end of this hunting. Vital pouted. Can you give me an example of what I can learn? She really wanted to know what she could possibly learn in this crazy, and no logical for her, trip. Kuririn looked at her with the corner of his eyes, wondering if he should tell her everything, and when he looked ahead again he spoke. First, that maybe aliens aren't bad, but that most humans are. That got him a strange look from Vital, but he didn't care. Second, well, you'll find that all you think you know about martial arts is not enough. What the hell? She frowned at the short man. Did he just said that she knows nothing of martial arts? She's Hercule's daughter and one of the strongest people in the world. Sorry, but I think I'm pretty good in martial arts. No offense, she said with both hands up. Kuririn sighed. None taken. I didn't say you aren't good in it. But you may change your mind soon. She pondered his answer and sighed. I'll think about that later. About aliens, Vital started. I think they aren't all bad. But I don't get why you said that most humans are bad. We didn't invade anyone's planet. She saw Kuririn took a deep breath, like he was wondering what to say. Well, in the past he kind of invaded a planet, but they weren't bad and even helped the Namekians, but she had no need to know that. Okay, Sim, that part was specific to Vegeta and Frieza. May had come to conquer our planet, but something, or someone, stopped them. But, did you ever heard about any alien alliance that wants to conquer the Earth? Vital frowned in thought, and soon enough denied with her head. I had heard, saw, and fought with a human organization that wanted that. She immediately started to think, trying to find, or remember, something about an organization from her history classes. They were the Red Ribbon. Mean humans that wanted nothing more than power. Her eyes widened, her brain brought back all the classes she had about them. What? But they vanished long ago. And no one knows how it happened. Her sudden yell caught her friend's attention, and stopping the movie they looked at the duo. I know what happened. I was there after all. The RR army was overpowered by a friend of mine. He was really strong that time and got even more after the years that came by. It's just as I told you, Vital, all you know about martial arts is not enough. Kuririn then stopped the moving house under a tree in the woods they had just entered. The dragon radar was doing loud noises, it was like yelling to them that they were near the Dragon Ball. Getting up, he looked at her, the radar on his hands. Let's talk about that later. Who wants to get the first Dragon Ball? With a smile, he walked out of the house, searching for some danger with his key. The monk smiled when he felt nothing. What was that, Vital? Sharpener asked while meeting her at the door. I hope we'll find out soon, was all she said before going after Kuririn. Vital's detective side is coming up with full force, Arasa said while tapping her friend's shoulder before walking out. With a sigh, and a small smile, he followed the trio. Kuririn was laughing as if there was no tomorrow, his belly aching from the continuous movement that he couldn't hold back. The scene was just too fun for him. The teenagers were running for a huge dinosaur that chased them for at least 20 minutes, the Dragon Ball on his back glowing with intensity as if it was having fun too. At first the teenagers wanted to grab the sphere by themselves. It was easy considering that the monster was sleeping. If Sharpener had kept silence when Arasa lost her balance and stepped into his foot, plus punching his face, they'd managed to get it without problems. Well, Vital also helped in waking up the big dinosaur as she yelled to them to be quiet or the animal would awake. After that they just run away yelling and waking up all kind of animals that, as Kuririn, were watching the scene also laughing. Now, it can seem that he is a bad person, but the reason it was so funny was because the dinosaur wasn't a predator, he was an herbivore. He was just angry at the trio for waking him up. He wouldn't eat them like Arasa was yelling while she runs. He's gonna eat us. Someone help. They run past Kuririn for the third time and finally someone noticed that he was almost dying with his own laugh. Sharpener then started to get the attention of the dinosaur and run into Kuririn's way. The monk blinked when the blonde teenager went past him, stopping his laugh when he saw the huge animal running towards him. With a smirk he got into a straight posture, releasing only a little bit of ki, not allowing his aura to be seen, and it was really effective. The dinosaur's eyes widened immediately after sensing the strong energy and he started to stop. His frontal paws tried to make his body stop but he was too fast. He was going to hit Kuririn. Kuririn avoid him. Vital yelled worried, but for her surprise the monk smirked again and put just his left hand in front of him. What is he doing? It's gonna hit him. Arasa yelled in horror. But something incredible happened. The dinosaur's head made contact with Kuririn's hand and it was like he had hit a wall instead. The man didn't even shake, but the animal was now unconscious. Well, it was fun, guys, thanks. He laughed once more. But this guy is herbivore, so you didn't have to run like that. A stupid grin was now glued on his face, and it seemed that the man wasn't noticing the glares he was getting. But he didn't finish amazing the three teenagers as he just jumped and landed on the back of the dinosaur to get the Dragon Ball. Sorry boy, he said with a pat on the monster's head. I had to stop you. Jumping back to the ground, he looked at his group. So, what did you guys learn today? The stupid grin was once again on his face. That you can make a dinosaur unconscious. Was all Sharpener yelled in shock. That wasn't the answer I wanted, specifically from the one who made him go in my direction. He was just teasing the boy as he was about to interfere anyway. How on earth did you do that? Arasa said, getting closer to him and looked down to see his face. Well, she was taller than him. He sighed. You know, guys, I'm not weak as you think. I did get into the finals of the World Martial Arts, you know. You guys stuck together with Vital and don't know that. At the mention of the tournament, Vital's mind started to race. How she didn't notice it before. Maybe because so much stuff was going on and she just let it slide. Either way, now she just kept hearing his voice on her head. All you know of martial arts is not enough. What? So can you train me? Sharpener said, getting closer to him with enthusiasm. He had to receive training from another person as strong as Mr. Satan, so he could get even stronger. Kuririn blinked at that, as he never thought in being a master for someone, but he did think Vital was going to ask him it, not Sharpener. With a frown he was about to answer, but Vital spoke before he could. Me too. Since we are away from my routine, I want to be trained too. She just couldn't let it slide. And she had a feeling that it would lead her to some answers for her numerous questions that were created over the years. Kuririn sighed. Would he be ready to teach the turtle style and ki to these teenagers? I'll think about it. I'm not into martial arts anymore. Maybe I've reached my limit. He scratched his bald head. Oh please. I'm sure you're almost at the same level of Mr. Satan. Sharpener said with enthusiasm. Kuririn, on the other hand, sweat dropped. He hated the idea of being compared with that weakling and lying person. He was much stronger. His eyes showed how wounded he were with those words, and Vital didn't let it pass. Another question for the future. Murmuring something that could be translated as, "Don't compare me with that oaf," came out of his lips, but the trio didn't understand. In the end, he said once more that he'd think about being their master and made the moving house appear from a capsule. It was late, and he still had to call his wife. With everyone set in their beds, he got down to the living room and got his phone. He don't know why and for how long he stood there just looking at it, but his fingers finally dialed her number. It took a while for 18 get it. I was sure you wouldn't call me today. He smiled. He was pretty sure she didn't get at the first ring just to punish him for not calling sooner. Sorry. I didn't want to stop by the desert and we were close to the first Dragon Ball, so. He heard her giggle. It wasn't a really rare thing, but she still did it not as many times as he wanted her to. Those kids are going to make the hunting take forever. You'd be much faster alone and flying. With a smile, Kuririn put his back on the couch's back, relaxing. I know that it'd be faster, but I'm having a good time, you know. They even asked me to teach them martial arts. He made a pause. Not so sure about that though. Why not give it a shot? Master Roshi even said you already know everything of turtle style. That got him in surprise. Sure, he still did some basic training, but it was more to let him in shape. Try it. I'm sure they'll enjoy the new world you'll show them. He smiled. His wife did change after all the years. I'll give it a try. But just because you said so. He heard her laugh. Dend looked with attention to his half-Saiyan friend. For a few minutes now he was anxious. It seemed that Gohan was almost doing it. The new Kami could sense the half-breed's ki flutter. In some moments it was as if he wasn't there. A smile went to his face. It took a month, but his friend was doing it. Gohan's body was getting kind of transparent. Dend held his breath. He was really doing it. Then he got back to normal. Damn it! Gohan yelled. He almost did it, and he knew, but something was holding him back. It was as if he was lacking in something deep inside. He was so frustrated. He was having problems to reach the instant transmission since his father tried to teach him, and even being older wasn't helping. He took a deep breath and looked at Dend. You almost did it this time. Kami had a huge smile on his face, but Gohan sighed. Yeah, but failed, again. He then got up. It was time for his normal training now. He just couldn't only focus on instant transmission or he'd get more frustrated than he already was. I'll call Piccolo, I need a spar. Stretching his muscles, he ran inside at full speed. He never changes, Dent said with the same smile still on his face, and turned his attention to the earth below. 2 weeks ago, Wiki restarted to move the keepers and the aliens were panicking again. He still couldn't feel Vegeta, and his worries only grew as he saw more aliens get caught and vanish. He sighed. His only good time now was watch Kuririn teaches the two teenagers in how to fight, even it being almost only wearing weighted clothes, also their Dragon Ball hunting. They were closer to the 5th Dragon Ball by now. But he couldn't pay attention to them as another ask for his help made its way into his mind. It was when he couldn't hold it anymore and decided to ask for help. Dend just couldn't stay away from this anymore, as he kept hearing the praise of the ones being chased by the robots. Please, Kami, help us. Help my family. Why would Kami let me get caught? Please, Kami, help my daughter. They can't find her, they must not. Those were just from that morning. He sighed. Gohan, can I borrow you for a while? He didn't want to do that. He wanted his friend to be hidden all the time since the robots were active again, but he just couldn't let all those aliens suffer. Did something happen? Was the answer he got, but he knew that his friend was going to him as he felt his ki moving. And soon enough Gohan was by his side. Sorry to bother you, but can you go and bring the aliens that are being attacked by the keepers? Gohan blinked in surprise, but nodded with a smile. Sure. I was wondering how long you would take until ask me to help. You do know that both of us can't stand what is happening. Dend let out a sigh of relief, a huge one, while the half Saiyan was smiling. He then smiled at his friend and chuckled. They were so alike in helping others. Gohan then pressed the button on his watch and his golden fighter outfit came out to life. He felt so strange. It still had some blood on it as the last time he wear it was a month ago. He just didn't have the state of mind to think about it at the time, the condition of it. Dend frowned at how his friend was taking a time to look at his outfit and both were surprised by Piccolo's voice. Let me fix it. He then used his powers to make a new outfit for Gohan, identical to the dirty one. Now go. We are wasting time. With a nod the half-breed shoot towards the way Den told him, only turning Super Saiyan when he was almost there. He couldn't let the keepers find the lookout because of his energy after all. He flew as fast as he could, the air pressure around him making huge noises along the way. Whoever looked up though would only see the trail he left behind. Den gave him the directions he should go, and soon enough he entered the limits of the forest where the village stood. The village was in the middle of the North Forest, only a thin road made its ways between the huge trees. Even so, the most population of the village was of aliens, and they were in panic, to say the less. Gohan narrowed his eyes as he spotted a few keepers fight against a robust animal-alike alien. He seemed to be a gray wolf with good muscles and a good fighting stance. As he was able to protect the ones near him, Gohan focused on the not-so-powerful aliens, and landed in front of a small group just in time to destroy one of the robots. G Golden Fighter. One behind him spoke, not believing on his own eyes. His gaze was on the golden dragon on his cape, and then the man in front of him turned with a confident smile, not that they could see it with his visor hiding it. That's right. Kami heard your wish and I'm here to help. The group's eyes widened in shock. Kami. He smiled even further. I need you all to stick together. I'll take you all to him. As he received a nod from the little group he turned to the rest of the keepers. There weren't that many, but somehow he was having a bad feeling on his stomach. Something wasn't right, and he'd find out soon enough as a sudden movement near him caught his attention. Vital knelt on the dirty ground on the forest. Her legs were aching, the same was happening with her arms. She panted. Sharpener was in a similar state at her side, but somehow he was still up, supporting his weight with his hands on his knees. Kuririn smiled widely. Today was the last day for weighted clothes, and he was really surprised in how Sharpener's ki was improving. Vital seemed to have stuck on that part for some reason, but he'd have to think about that later on. He still didn't tell them about ki, but he was sure that soon enough he'd have to. He looked up to the trees. It wouldn't take long until they had to go back to the little hotel in the near village they were since yesterday, for lunch. He wasn't a Saiyan, but he was sure he'd eat as much as one. Okay, I have good news, he said, getting up from his spot on the ground, letting aboard Arasa with her juice behind, and clapped his hands. You can take the weight off. The two yelled in happiness and started to take the extra clothes off. I feel amazing, Sharpener yelled and started to run in circles while smiling. It didn't take too long for Vital to stare at him in awe. He was faster. What? Sharpener, you're faster than before. The teenager looked at himself with a puzzled face. He didn't notice it at all. Really? Kuririn chuckled. These two were so into Hercules' lies that basic training seemed to be a big deal to them. That's one of the benefits of it. You two can use weighted clothes whenever you feel like you don't have time to train. It helps your body to stay in shape. He started to walk to them, but something got his attention. Gohan's ki was near. He narrowed his eyes while looking at the way it was coming, and it wasn't that far away from where they were. What? It was when a keeper came flying into their way. Soon enough it was a body that had fallen in front of them, and with a cough, because of the dust, Kuririn panicked. Gohan was right in front of them. Huh, Kuririn? Gohan asked as he turned around after sensing a familiar ki, and got really confused seeing his friend there. What are you? He was cut off by a fist on his stomach. How he hated robots. He took a few steps back. The hit made an effect on him, but he didn't want to show it. For some reason, right after he got into the fight, new keepers appeared, the ones that looked like number 17 and number 18, still unfinished. He gritted his teeth in angry. He could sense the aliens following him into the woods, and he was glad that the robots were focusing only on him at that moment. But he still had a bad feeling about all this, if the presence of the new keepers wasn't enough. Do you need help? Kuririn asked, getting closer to his friend. His suit again with his own blood, and that worried the bald monk. If Gohan was having problems with those new keepers, he was going to have a hard time with them too. He saw Vital, Sharpener and Arasa, who run to her friends when the first keeper came flying, looking at him with big eyes. He took a deep breath. He didn't have time for this now, and he'd want an explanation later. There is a group of aliens coming this way. Take them to the lookout, please. He then charged at the number 17 keeper that had hit his stomach. He had to end this, and he sure delayed the fight after he punched the robot on its face. You three, come. Kuririn yelled at the teenagers, and it seemed to bring them back to reality as they immediately blinked at him. Running they went towards the bald man, their eyes never letting the golden fighter. Hey go, he gulped. He had almost it all up for good. Golden fighter, do you have any capsules? The boy didn't answer and just threw one to him, which was easily caught. Gohan then punched the number 17 on his robot face again, but this time stronger. It was so strong that its face got destroyed. But he didn't have time to relax, as a number 18 landed by his side and grabbed his left arm. Immediately he felt a sting pain on the place her hands were, and he couldn't hold back a yell, one of full pain, that made the group of humans look at him, trying to understand what was happening. What? Kuririn frowned while trying to understand the situation, and he did soon after. Number 18 was draining Gohan's energy, and it seemed really painful. His eyes widened at the sight and couldn't hold back his impulse to save his friend. He dashed towards his wife-alike robot looking and punched her stomach with full force. She was sent a few meters away, releasing the teenager that kneeled down abruptly with a heavy breath. "Thank you, Kuririn," Gohan said between his heavy breaths. Now he knew how Vegeta got caught, and it sure hurt as hell. "Don't tell 18 that I smashed her, please." The bald monk talked in a murmur, as if he was trying to convince himself that the robot he hit wasn't his wife. And it wasn't after all. Gohan couldn't help and laughed, the tension getting lighter. Meanwhile, the other three teenagers were looking at the scene with a mix of feelings, and they just couldn't name all of it. So Kuririn knew the gold fighter, and on top of it, it seemed they are friends for a long time. They shook their heads. Now wasn't the time, they had to help the others. "Kuririn," Vital yelled, catching his attention. "We need to help the others. Come on. Don't go with them to the lookout. And I do want an explanation later," was all Kuririn heard before running to them. The group ran into the woods, but when they could barely hear the sounds of the battle, Kuririn stopped. He had a serious look. How the hell he was supposed to go on his trip without saying everything to his pupils? "You three go see if the village needs help. I'll help the aliens alone." They started to protest against it, but his voice made them silent. "I can't bring you three to where we are going. Not yet. Follow my orders." He then dashed in a completely different way they were going before, in a blinding speed. The teenagers stood there for a few minutes before running to the village in silence. Dirty words were all he was thinking while fighting. This was harder than he first expected. Sure, he remembers how it was difficult to fight against robots because of their non-existing ki, but that it was this hard. It seemed to him that those were even more powerful than the original androids. He got hit into his ribs once more and held back a painful sound. His mind wasn't entirely on the fight, and it was the cause of his injuries. He had to finish it soon. He was starting to have problems with his own energy that kept being drained too, but he just couldn't focus, even when there were only 3 robots left, but they were annoying as hell. He couldn't focus. Avoiding a punch and a kick from different robots, he used his hands to form a ball of ki, making both take a few steps behind. If they had eyes, not only the red light, he was sure they'd be looking at him with cautiousness. Well, he was experienced in fighting after all. He could be better, yes, but he was good at it as he had many experiences in the past. He then charged at the 2 androids, his eyes never letting the sight of the third one. Sometimes the better defense is the attack after all. He kept up the fight with strong blows, the knowledge of how they were still in fighting capacity far away from him. He avoided a kick as the third keeper charged at him. Gohan was glad that he knew better than just ignore him. But even so, he was caught in surprise. When he noticed he was already caught by one number 17 and one number 18. His sight started to blur as he felt the energy leave his body by the places where they had their hands. He sensed a painful feeling go down his spine at the same moment and almost lost his senses due to it. But, unfortunately, he came back to his senses when one free 17 feet fist met his face, right into his visor, shattering it. First he felt surprise at the sudden attack, but right after immeasurable pain. The force of the impact made he close his eyes as fast as he could react, but it didn't stop the pieces of glass to penetrate into his skin, not to mention that he felt every single one getting into it. He couldn't hold back. Once more, the yell that came out. But this time it wasn't just that. The psychological shock was greater than he could foresee, and unconsciously he powered up to level 2. His aura sent all of the keepers around him flying away, being destroyed by it in the simple process. But he didn't know. He opened his eyes, slowly due the huge pain on both of them, and half closed it at the same time. All he could see was shadows on the red background. Gohan knew that his own face was covered in blood, and every movement he did made it worse as he felt the liquid flow from his face to his body. He cursed his own carelessness. By now he should know better how to fight, but it seemed he still had issues at that point, being overly confident that is. He stood there for a few moments, waiting to be attacked, but it never came as they were destroyed. He just noticed it a few moments later. He then started to search for Kuririn's key, and was glad that it was alone with the aliens. They seemed to be moving, so he rose into the air and went to their way. He turned back to his base form, and had to slow down his flying. The wind was making the pain too much worse, and he was glad when he finally, somehow, found the airship. Kuririn couldn't believe in what he was seeing. Gohan, the most powerful being on Earth, was hit and his young face was bleeding like a lin, not to mention the ugly sight of the still pierced glasses pieces. His once white suit was now colored with carmesum around the neck and torso parts, and the boy was now sitting on one of the jet chairs with his face up. The bleeding didn't stop, but it wasn't as bad as the moment he got hit. "I'll drive faster so Den can heal you." The bald monk panicked, but Gohan had another plan. "No." Everyone looked at him with surprise. "Go back to the village. Does someone know how to drive this?" He had his eyes closed, he was trying to remain calm. Even with the pain that came every time he spoke, and it was really difficult to maintain his pain. "I do." It was a female voice, and he nodded slowly. "Put the coordinates Kuririn, she'll drive. Now go, they need help back there." Kuririn would argue, but he knew how the Sun family was. Without saying much more he flew off the jet after giving the coordinates to the woman. The jet then restarted its fly. The woman was doing it at full speed. She was worried about their savior after all. "Does this jet have a first aid kit?" This time was a male voice. Gohan simply pointed to the driver's seat. He knew where it was due the driver's key, and he heard steps towards it, going to him right after. "I'm a doctor. Let me see your face." Gohan stood in silence until the man was in front of him. "Can you open your eyes?" The teenager gulped. He slowly opened it, the move making his whole face ache, and there he was seeing red again. "I'll have to touch you. Sorry if it hurts, okay?" Gohan said nothing. He knew the man wanted to help. He had to hold back moans of pain though. It was going to be a long trip to the lookout. How he wished he had instant transmission now. "Everything is fine now," one villager told Vital while looking sad at her. "But I'm sure we all are sad about what happened." She frowned at that. "Because of the aliens living here." The old man then looked at her with surprise. It was as if she told something really bad. "What? No. They were always kind to us. Our only doctor was among them. We were all friends. Why those stupid machines had to come here?" Vital's eyes widened. Sure, while they traveled they had meet some aliens, but she never saw a human talk about them like this. And she did go there to help, but most of her will was because the Golden Fighter asked them to. "Yeah, I don't know what would happen if it wasn't for the Golden Fighter." Now was a woman a few steps behind them. He was so brave to help them. "I hope they are fine." Vital stood there, stunned. The villagers started to say bad things about Wiki and the keepers, and she just couldn't believe in it. Sure, she went to help them after the Golden Fighter asked Kuririn to, but she only did it because he, the masked hero, asked. If it was her own will, she wouldn't at all. Not because she thought they were bad, but she wouldn't have proof that they weren't bad. Sharpener was talking to the rest of the few villagers, and Arasa was looking at everything with concern. All they could do now was wait for Kuririn, who had the news. They didn't wait much. As soon enough the bald monk came walking from the woods, but he wasn't normal. His face was pale, he had a frown and walked very slowly. Kuririn was still thinking about Gohan, and how the new keepers seemed to be stronger than the original androids. His punch should have done more damage than that. Looking up he saw what was left of the villagers, and he was surprised when the old man that was with Vital came running to him. "Are our friends okay? Did the Golden Fighter take them away from here?" At the mention of Gohan's alter ego he swallowed, the image of his face full of blood was still livid on his mind. Even so, he answered the old man. Yes. I took them away, and soon after he meets us. A wide smile came to the man's features and he started to tell the others the news. Meanwhile, Kuririn's group gathered around him. They knew something was off with the short man. What happened? Vital was the first to ask. Kuririn took a deep breath. He shook his head, trying to forget the sight. He got injured. I hope everything turns out fine. The trio looked sad at him. They wanted more information, but by his state they wouldn't keep asking. The airship was near the lookout by now. Gohan had broken a piece of his seat with his bare hands while trying to hold back the pain from having the glasses pieces pulled out of his face. It was like they were all being piercing his skin once more. The doctor was precise, yet slow. He couldn't rush it as he was afraid to worse the damage. He now was putting a medical band around the teenager's face, trying to slow down the bleed. How high are we? He asked after the doctor finished. Now he could see better, but the red was still there. The man seemed to have 60 years, he has deep-colored eyes, but Gohan couldn't really see their color. He didn't look like an alien at all. Looking at the woman at the driver's seat, he got surprised to see a teenager. She had long hair, but he couldn't tell what color it was. The only color he could see was red. You mean the altitude? She looked at him and blinked. Where are the clouds? She frowned and looked ahead. We are in them. Gohan took a deep breath. Go higher. We need to pass them. Kami lives above the clouds. Dend was in shock as soon as his eyes found Gohan. He rushed over to him, dropping his Bengal while doing so. He felt guilty. His friend wouldn't be like that if he didn't ask for his help. Immediately the Kami started to take off the medical band with care. Even with the doctor being against it, he didn't care as he had the need to see what he was going to heal, even if he was going to dislike it. He didn't even know if it'd let scars like the one Gohan had on his arm. Please, don't take the band out. It'll be terrible if it starts to bleed again. The doctor, now known as Silas, panicked. They still didn't know that Dend was the Kami, as 18 immediately took them away from the trio as soon as her eyes went on the teenager. I need to see it so I can heal him. He was focused, and couldn't hide the shock once he saw his friend's face. The Kami heard Piccolo flinch by his side. So it's that bad, huh? Gohan said with closed eyes and crossed arms. Dend put his hands near his face and started his work. As it was healing the small cuts that had smaller piece of glass inside, those couldn't be removed by the doctor, started to eject them. Gohan groaned. How long he'd suffer for that mistake. Silas was impressed at the healing process, even more when only the biggest wounds turned into scars. He noticed that the green alien was focused on the eyes area most of all. He knew the risk Gohan's sight was having after all. It wasn't too long after that Dend finished, but he wasn't happy at all. He felt like he had failed his friend once more, being unable to heal him completely without leaving any scars. I'm done. Gohan then slowly opened his eyes, the fear of only seeing red forever on his mind, but he was seeing colors again and he sighed with relief. Thank Kami, I'm not seeing only red anymore. He smirked at his silly joke, but he dropped it as he saw the face Dend was doing. What's wrong, Dend? The young Kami got up, his eyes focused on the floor. I'm sorry. I couldn't heal properly. Your face is covered in scars. He looked ashamed. Gohan sighed. Dend. He got up and put his hands on his friend's shoulders. I'm fine with having scars. As a warrior, it's a good thing. It means I'm an experienced fighter. He then gave him a confident smile. Don't feel guilty, okay? It was my fault to get hit anyway. The young Namekian nodded weakly, and walked away saying something about welcoming the guests. Piccolo and Silas stood there, looking at the half Saiyan, the first worried in how he'd react once he saw his face, the second amazed by the ability to heal from the previous alien. Are you really fine, kid? Piccolo asked and Gohan shook his head in denial. Just need to rest a bit. Smiling, he looked at the doctor. Thanks for the first aid, by the way. I'm really glad you were there. Oh, it was nothing. I'm glad you're all good now. Both smiled and Gohan went to his room's way. The teen, however, had to stop midway as he felt a sharp pain go down his spine. It was so intense that almost made him unable to walk. He had felt almost the same pain while the keepers were draining his energy, but why now? He somehow got into his room, feet barely sustaining his weight, and fell down on his bed after painful footsteps. The pain now was making his heartbeat seems like his heart was inside his ears, pulsing like never before. He held back a yell. He knew Piccolo would hear it and Gohan just wanted to be alone, but moans of pain made its way out of his mouth. He started to sweat, he felt cold and his breathing was already at a fast speed. Just what the hell was that pain? Then out of the blue, it stopped. He opened his eyes while slowing his breath. His mind becoming clearer, as every trace of the sudden pain left his body. He then pressed the button on his watch, his purple training GI appearing once more. With a deep breath he let his arms fall on his sides. All he wanted to do was take a shower and sleep like there was no tomorrow, but as soon as he tried to get up his face meet the floor. What the? He tried to stand again, only to fall one more time. He frowned at that. He never had lost his balance like this since he lost his tail. His tail. That wouldn't grow up again, right? Looking behind him he cursed. There it was waving happily to him, his own brown monkey's tail. Damn. It took him longer than expected, but his balance was there again. Still he walked with a bit of difficulty to the bathroom, avoiding looking at the mirror as long as he could. What he said before was true, he didn't care about the scars, but he was just unsure if he should look at it at the moment. But he looked up after washing his face, a habit he always had, and there he was glaring at someone else on the mirror. Gohan couldn't recognize himself there. Scars all over his features, the biggest one crossed in diagonal half of his face starting on his right eyebrow and ending on his left cheek. Several, and minors, scars around his eyes made him understand why all he could see at the time was red, and where the pain came from when he opened it. Even his mouth was damaged and a bit deformed on the left side. He analyzed the scars on his eyes, noticing that they were deeper than he first thought, what made him look down for a minute. Just to look up again to see the rest of them. The rest of his face had dozen scars, not as big or skin damaged as the biggest one, but it all just made him be. Not Gohan. Now I understand why they looked at me like that. Washing his face again, to clear his thoughts, he went to bed without taking his shower. The half-breed really needed a rest. The aliens were stunned for a few minutes now. After all, they were looking at the entity known as Kami. Dend always saw himself more like a guardian, but he'd keep that only on his mind. He was still upset by not being able to heal Gohan's injuries without letting his skin with ugly scars, but he doesn't have time to deal with that now. He let Mr. Popo in charge of settling down their visitors while he searched for Kuririn's key. He had only sensed that the fighter was near Gohan when he helped the teenager, so he wanted to know how that happened to their friend. It didn't take too long to find him. The monk was standing in the middle of the village, Gohan's friends by his side. They were talking but Kami didn't care to interrupt, he needed to know what happened. So, his visor shattered. Vital had a shocked face, she never saw her partner in crime being hit at all when they worked together. It was only incredible that a robot managed to do it. Kuririn sighed and would keep up the chatting when a known voice, for him at least, spoke above the whole village. Kuririn, I need to know what happened, in details. The bald monk widened his eyes as the voice was heard all over the place. How strong did Dend got since he came to Earth? Wow Dend, how come you can talk to all these people now? He heard the young alien clean his throat, he was embarrassed. That's not the point now. I need to know how robots manage to. He made a pause, a long one, and that made Kuririn's heart ache. Gohan was fine, right? How they managed to hit the Golden Fighter? What was so special about them? He fought androids and a bio-android before and just came out with a damaged arm, what of course is worse, but this is still bad. Is he okay? After a long sigh and a positive answer, Kuririn spoke again, relieved. They had the power to absorb energy. Like Dr. Gero, 7 years ago. The humans on the village were listening with full attention. They didn't know to whom the voice belonged, or who was Dr. Gero, but they were interested to say the least. The 3 teenagers were in deep thought by now. 7 years ago was the same time that Cell arrived on Earth and started to kill every human that crossed his path. But who was this doctor they were talking about? And androids? Bio-android? They never heard such a thing. I wasn't on Earth at that time yet, I'll have to ask Piccolo about this one. Vital recognized that name, Demon Piccolo. She swallowed and looked at Kuririn, who had a serious face now. You don't think that Wiki found his laboratories, right? You guys destroyed it, no? Dend was worried. If there was another laboratory, things would turn only worse, but by now the chances were high. We destroyed the one that had our timeline cell. He frowned now. Would there be another secret laboratory? Can I talk to 18? She may remember something. Go. The Golden Fighter already asked her that. She said her memory from that time was erased. Dend gulped at his almost slip. He forgot he was talking to the whole village. Oh, and sorry, villagers. Your friends are all fine. They'll stay here in safety. No one can enter my realm without my own permission. Rest assured. He heard words of thanks and smiled to himself. He should talk to people more. Kuririn turned to his little group and cursed under his breath. He forgot they were there and spoke something he shouldn't have, and it was well seen on their faces. Vital was frowning hard, as if trying to connect the points as cell, timeline and laboratories. On top of it, she remembered Gohan talking about some 18 the last time they went to his house. Arasa was trying to understand who Dr. Gero was. She kept murmuring his name. She was sure she heard something about him before. Sharpener was with one hand under his chin, deep thoughtful for all the talk. So, this voice that came from nowhere. Sharpener made a pause, looking up. Kuririn raised one eyebrow in curiosity. Who are you? The bald monk had to hold a chuckle. If it wasn't Dend, but the previous Kami, he'd not be pleased with the way the boy asked. You all may know me as Kami of Earth. Kuririn noticed that Dend talked very proudly and full of confidence. He should be doing an interesting face now. He never had an opportunity to show off. And you live on Earth. Sharpener was blinking. This was so interesting to him. You can say so. I would like to talk more, but I have to go now. But I know we'll all see each other soon enough. That caught the 3 teenagers' attention. What did he mean by, see each other soon? Kuririn, finish your trip faster. We should be faster. He didn't even let the bald monk answer and finish the talk. Kuririn sighed. He was a babysitter. Okay, they were teenagers, training them and gathering the Dragon Balls basically at the same time. How should he fasten his hunting? I have questions. Vital said, looking right at him, and he gulped. That obviously wasn't going to end well. Let's talk on our way, okay? We have to find the next Dragon Ball faster. Vital would object, but in a second thought, meeting Kami was an awesome incentive. Gohan didn't know for how long he slept, but he was more tired than before. Maybe all the stress from his previous battle, plus his tail coming out and his new face, really got into his psychological side. He could still hear the sound of his visor shattering. Frowning, he got mad at himself. Am I supposed to be a traumatized kid now? Closing his eyes, he sighed heavily, walking to the bathroom to finally take his shower. Once he passed by the mirror, he looked at his reflect. That was going to take a while to familiarize. The hot water made his muscles relax, together with his mind. For a few minutes, at least. This time all he could remember were Dend and Piccolo while the first was healing him. Clapping his face with a bit of force, he tried to clean his mind. It was when the half-breed remembered that Kuririn was with his friends, immediately all he was feeling changed to, well, he didn't know how to name it, but it wasn't good. He finished his shower and put his GI on, hiding his tail after minutes of thinking. He just didn't want to answer anything more for now, he was going to do the questioning. As he walked into the lookout, he was greeted by the aliens he rescued. They were thankful to him and he was glad that they were safe now. He stopped once he spotted the same wolf man that was fighting with the keepers, walking to him right after. His fur was gray, with some parts in white, he had a softy face and a scar in one of his eyes, but he could still see with it. As he sensed Gohan's approach, he looked at him. Golden Fighter. Such an honor to meet you. He extended one of his paws to shake his hand. Gohan smiled and took his paw, shaking it firmly. Please, I'm just a regular person. He smiled weakly. No, regular half-alien. The wolf man laughed. You're nothing regular, my young man. You helped my friends here, and that make you our hero. Gohan let out a muffled chuckle. Well, I would dare to say that you were doing a great job there. I was impressed. He could swear that the wolf blushed, but it was hard to notice because of his fur. My race is one of the warrior types, so I guess I can keep up a fight or two. Gohan smiled. We should spar sometime. He now spotted Dend and remembered why he was out there. If you excuse me, what's your name? Sorry, I didn't even ask. The wolf chuckled. It's okay. You can call me Shake. Gohan smiled again. Okay then, Shake, if you excuse me, I have to talk to Dend now. See you around. The wolf gave him a positive nod and turned to his friends, a big smile on his wolf features. Dend was looking at the earth in search of any clue that could help him find Wiki. He was now stressed by all that has happened and didn't even sleep since Gohan came back the day before. He just felt that he had to dig out that human's secrets. He didn't even feel that his friend was coming over to him with a scowl. Piccolo, however, noticed it and got worried. What was wrong with him? Guys, was all he said to get Dend's attention, and it worked as the Namek looked at him, raising an eyebrow right after. I need some answers. About what? Dend asked, blinking. He was starting to get tired from standing at the edge of the lookout now. About why Kuririn is, as it seems, traveling with Vital, Arasa and Sharpener. That, just to start. His scowl got deeper and Piccolo's worries raised. Dend's sweat dropped and gulped. Now he had to explain it to Gohan. What if he has an outburst? Speak up. Look, it wasn't our idea. He started. It was Bulma's. They went after you at the hospital the day after your incident, but you weren't there and she saw it as an opportunity to gather the Dragon Balls. For what? This came out a little louder than he expected to, catching the attention of the ones near them. Maybe to bring Vegeta back. I don't know. They just want to find you because someone ran away from them. They want to wish to find you. So now they know about the Dragon Balls too. That's great. Why you all didn't told them that I am a half-breed? Dend was getting mad at this point. The emotions of both were getting higher and Piccolo just couldn't think about something to say. Everything seemed that would make it worse. Why they can't gather them? It's not like they'll use the wish for a bad purpose. You wouldn't be friends with them if they were bad. Gohan gritted his teeth in angry. Why Dend couldn't understand. I'm not afraid of the wish. I know they wouldn't use it for a bad thing. Did any of you think about what they can find out about me during this hunting? Why you didn't tell me before? I'd never let Bulma do this. That's exactly why. She even asked me to keep it a secret from you. What's so bad about them know who you are after all? Because they'll be in danger. Well, guess what? I meet you while my life was at risk. Dend was now holding his Bengal with all his strength. He was getting really mad. Oh, you're not going there. That was completely different from the situation here. Besides, I even help humans. At this point Gohan stopped his speech, and for a second forgot that the young Cammy could read thoughts. I even got these scars on my face because of you. But he soon realized what he did, and looked at his friend just to see a hurt expression. No, Dend, I didn't mean to. You, Gohan. He spoke with a low voice, his left arm up in front of him, pointing at the half-Saiyan. Are not welcome to my realm. Den then moved his arm, sending Gohan flying out of the lookout. It took a few seconds for the teenager understands what happened, but it was too late. Dend. Piccolo yelled at him, how could he do that? What? I wish it rains until he find a place to sleep. That was it. He was going to sleep now. He walked past Piccolo who still tried to call him but the boy ignored him. You shouldn't say that, he said looking at the way Gohan was sent flying, just to see raining clouds gathering there. That will be a long night for Gohan. Gohan saw the lookout getting smaller as his body went farther away from it. He was shocked that something like that could happen. Sure, he knew that the previous Kami was strong enough to not let random, and bad, people into his realm, but heck. Dend was stronger than when he arrived on Earth. He blinked as he felt his body be pushed down abruptly. He was now falling right to the ground at fast speed. Even so, he managed to not hit it, floating right before facing the Earth. Looking around, he noticed he was near a mountain, no civilization around his spot, but Gohan could feel a few ki not that far away. As he started to walk, rain started to fall. Somehow he knew it was Den's fault. Really? Rain? He shouted to the skies angry, but soon enough he looked down sadly. The rain turned out a storm. Gohan was annoyed. He knew he screwed up by thinking what he thought, but he was angry. He never meant to blame his friend for his own scars. It was only his fault, no one else. He sighed as he heard a thunder near, and walked further with crossed arms. Kuririn's sweat dropped as he got nervous with the teenagers. Since they got into the moving house again, they kept staring at him, as if waiting for him to explain something. He frowned as he drove further ahead, trying to stop the glares. It obviously didn't work. Arasa got closer to him. Vital sat in an inquiry position on the seat near him and Sharpener sat down on the floor near the bald man. Kuririn swallowed. Why, he was a babysitter. So, Vital started and he looked at the dragon radar. They were still far from it. What was that about Cell? She was smiling but her expression was the one of a cop. Kuririn stopped the house. Look. He sighed. Cell wasn't an alien, okay. But, how should I explain that? Now was Arasa's time. What do you mean? We know he was an alien. He looked at her. Really? Where are the proofs? I saw him before he was grown up, and he was made on Earth. By a mad scientist. He looked ahead now. I hated that Dr. Jero. With a pout he stopped. The only good thing he did was 18. You do have a point there. Sharpener put one of his hands under his chin, thinking. Wiki never showed us proof that he was indeed an alien, we just believed in that because there's no way a human could look like that and be that strong. He looked at Vital who had a raised eyebrow. Mr. Satan is unique, so that's why they did the test in your family first. Kuririn at this point couldn't hold back his laugh. With respect, your father is weak. Vital now was starting to get mad. Oh yeah, says the person who never won the martial arts tournament. He looked at her with an undefined expression. I never won because of my friend. Heck, he was so strong. And we just found out why years later. He happened to be an alien. He smiled sadly as he remembered the first time he had met Gohan and Raditz showed up, what led to Goku's first death. So you were friends with an alien. I know by now that not all of them are bad, but how should you know back there? Vital spoke again. We never judged someone by its race, color, or how it looks physically. We just knew them by their true self. He once more looked ahead, his hands resting on the steering wheel. Vital pondered his speech for a few minutes, the two blondes doing the same. They stood in silence and it was the black-haired teen that broke it again. You said to that voice, Cammy, that you destroyed the laboratory where this timeline cell was. What did you mean by that? Now Kuririn made a grimace. He spoke more than he should and now he had to make a way out of it. That's a bit complicated to explain. He looked at the trio and sighed. Their looks were the ones of, go on we have time, type. There was a time, where a friend of ours came from the future to warn us about a threat on Earth. It was so great that all warriors died trying to defeat it in his future. He remembered the panic he felt back then, and how he wished to stop Dr. Jero before he did something. But if he had, he wouldn't be married now. Time travel, that doesn't exist, Sharpener said. Plus, no one knew about this threat. Kuririn looked at them with the corner of his eye, they were so dense. We didn't let anyone aside our group to know. It was going to be too troublesome if weak guys showed up. Even I couldn't really have a chance at the time. Vital is getting angry. Her father could have helped them. Why didn't you call my father? He sighed again, and got up. Looking at the three kids he walked outside, gesturing so they could follow him, stopping once there. So, Vital. She looked at him with crossed arms. Why your father is weak? Because he mocked up the true fighters. This is what I mean when I say that all you know is not enough. He was without arguments by now, so he decided to just show them what was key, so they could see how weak they were right now. He looked at a giant rock away from them, he put his hand up, and started to form a ball of ki. The three teenagers widened their eyes as the energy ball turned into a spinning disc, and when it was huge enough he threw it at the rock. Kenzan. The bald man yelled, the thing cutting the rock in half. Do you get it now? The girl was stunned. I thought that only aliens could do that. What? How? She looked back at Kuririn. He was with a serene expression, but she still could hear in her head him calling her father weak. The worst part is that she was starting to believe in him. Gohan sighed as he walked further in the storm. Even with his ki shielding his body, he was still wet. Den's curse, he was sure of it. With a deep breath the teen stopped under a huge tree. It was really old he could notice, as its branches started only a couple of feet higher, not to mention its enormous trunk. As if possible the storm got worse, the sound of the rain drops making a loud melody, characteristics of a strong rain. He sat down on the wet earth. His GI now couldn't get worse with the mud as a plus as it was already clearly not clean. He chuckled as he thought what his mother would say if she saw him like this. How he missed her and Goten. He only saw and spoke to them when Dend had time to do the mental link, and it was rare. Putting his head on his knees, Gohan closed his eyes as the talk he had with his Namekian friend echoed on his mind. Was he really overreacting as the possibility of his human friends knowing the truth about him? Wouldn't they freak out as he feared? Wouldn't they report him to Wiki? He groaned on his frustrating situation while getting up. He had to find a place to sleep, or else he'd ending cursing his friend for the stupid storm. He doesn't know how much more he walked, his vision blurred for all the water that was falling from the skies, as it only got worse as he kept walking. He was following just his key sense, and by now it was indicating that a village was near. It was when his right foot slipped, the water made the earth drenched and slippery, he yelped as the fright got him by surprise there. He couldn't see, he couldn't control where his, now all covered in mud, body went as it slipped through the ground, stopping only when he hit something. He felt dizzy. Damn, he yelled and cursed, he hated to be got with his defenses low. Looking closer at what he had hit, the teenager blinked. It was a wall, a house. A noise at his side made him look at the source, narrowing his eyes trying to see as all he could do was sense a low key. Mom. Dad. It's not an animal. It was a girly voice, and soon enough two figures came after the girl. She was pointing at him, at least he thought she was. It's a Mr. Gohan frowned at how she could see him with that rain if even he couldn't see her. I don't see a thing, do you darling? It was a man voice, and as soon as it ended the woman spoke. Yes. Her voice was low, it was as if the woman was trying to not be heard. It seems he needs help. Gohan blinked and got up slowly, getting out of the little mud that came with him all the way down from where he was before slipping. Hey mister. Their daughter yelled, she thought he wasn't hearing them. Do you wanna sleep over? We have a warm bed. He heard one of her parents, the father, scowl her for inviting a strange to stay at their home, and Gohan chuckled. Don't need to be so angry at her. But you have a point, she shouldn't invite strange people. Her girly voice made its ways to his ears, she was annoyed at how he agreed with her father. She walked to him, and now he could see her. Alien eyes. Their size was the same as humans' ones, but they were completely not from Earth. The whole eyes were purple, as if there was an entire galaxy floating inside her orbs. There was no pupil at all. She extended her right and tiny hand to him. Hi, my name is May. What's your name? He understood what she was doing and laughed, shaking her hand right after. My name is Gohan, nice to meet you. She made a pose full of pride. Good. Since we aren't strangers anymore, would you like to sleep over? She eyed him once more, making a thoughtful face. And maybe a bath, and clean clothes. Gohan laughed again, patting her pink hair. That would be awesome, May. She then led him to her parents. Her father did a grimace seeing his scars, but for some reason he shook the teen's hand without further questions. Nice to meet you. My name is Ray and this is my wife Zara. Gohan smiled at them. The man was clearly human, not the same could be said from his wife. The woman had the same pink hair, but longer, as their daughter, and her face was really different from human. She had no protuberant nose, the same eyes as the little May, but more intense for sure. Gohan could swear he saw 2 galaxies in each eye. Her face was long and skinny and a pale skin matched everything. Gohan was amazed. Hello. She spoke once more in a low tone, but her voice was beautiful and Gohan smiled. Destiny leads him to an interesting place. Once inside he noticed the family of 3 wasn't wet due to some strange aura above the wife and daughter's heads. Some sort of technique he thought, or some unique ability. A smile crossed his face. The house was small, but warm. A little kitchen, a good-sized living room, 1 bathroom and 2 bedrooms. He smiled as the warmth remembered him of his family, how he missed them. You are a half Saiyan. What a rare thing. Zara's voice got his attention, and it shocked him that she knew he was a Saiyan. How do you? He didn't finish as she smiled softly at him. It's one of the abilities of my race. We can see one's soul and where they came from. That's also why my husband welcomed you, even never seeing you before. He trusted our abilities to see that you are a good soul. Gohan blinked at the information she gave him. That was indeed a good ability. I see. That's pretty cool, and would have come in hand in many situations. He scratched the back of his head, something that felt like ages since he did it. If you need some help in the future, let me know. She said with a sincere smile. The little group looked at the window as the storm turned into a weak rain. Gohan chuckled as he couldn't be mad at Dend. The young Kami did make the storm stop after all. Vital cursed under her breath as she put her whole right arm inside the hole on the rocks. Her face was getting all dirty with dust, inside her mouth too of course. She let out a yell of frustration and got her arm back, tapping it in her face to get the dirt off. It clearly didn't work. She looked at Kuririn, who had a smirk on his features, while he floated in midair behind her. It had been 3 days since the attack on the village, and the same time that she and Sharpener started to learn how to use ki. Both found it easily, but controlling it was a bit more complicated. The bald monk had the dragon radar on his hands, and she knew he could retrieve the ball that was inside the same hole she was putting her arm into with ease. She sighed as she remembered when Kuririn made both compete to find the orange ball. They had reached the nearest point the dragon radar was indicating. An evil smirk crossed his face, sending chills to both Sharpener and Vital. Arasa just grabbed a chair, a juice, and walked outside the house and sat. She was going to see a show after all. Then, Kuririn spoke. You two shall get this Dragon Ball alone. I'll not help. The one who find it and get it will learn how to fly. Of course she wanted to win. Who wouldn't want to fly by themselves? Without a machine. Feel the wind on the face. She was the first to find it, but she couldn't take it out. Her arm was too short. She frowned while trying to find some idea. It was when she remembered that time Kuririn made a kind of blade of ki. She got up from her spot, and walked a little away from the rocks. She glared at Arasa, who was now watching some show on her tablet. The blonde could help her friend with some ideas aside from this one she'd try now. But the blonde was just like that. Turning again to the rocks, Vital started to concentrate, slowly bringing her ki out. That got Kuririn's attention and he smiled while sensing her ki float. The brunette looked at her hands and after a long, calm breath she started to make a little ball of ki. She smirked at it, but didn't stop to make it grow. Her master was impressed at this point. His new incentive was already paying it. When he noticed their struggle with controlling their ki, this crossed his mind. What if they had to compete? It was the best idea ever. He sensed Sharpener walking Vital's way, but the girl had made a considerable ball of energy by now. When the blonde arrived, she looked at him with a winning smirk. I won. She then threw her palm ahead, as like it was a punch. The ball floated at full speed for a few moments, just to lose its strength and meet the ground, doing a little crater on it. Her jaw was wide open by now. Vital was sure she did it right. Sharpener, on the other hand, was now laughing hard. His friend's face was priceless. His laugh caught Arasa's attention, and she pouted after realizing that the motive of such laugh was now gone and she had lost it. Well, it was good for a first attempt. Kuririn couldn't help the chuckle that escaped his lips, but cleared his throat to stop it. You just threw it the wrong way. A ki ball is not a punch, you know. Vital sighed and crossed her arms. That made her more tired than she expected before and wasn't sure if she could do it again. Sharpener took that as hint to try too. He got into instance and slowly got his ki out. Kuririn smiled again. The competition was really paying it. The blonde boy took a deep breath, a small ball forming on his hand. It wasn't as bigger as Vital's, but he almost threw it right. Almost. The teenager looked at the rocks, let out a breath and tried to impulse it with his own ki. The ball did float ahead, but at a slow pace before falling down and doing a similar crater near Vital's one. The brunette laughed as hard as he did on her time. You got the concept right, Sharpener. But I didn't say that you wouldn't need force to throw it too. A large smirk was on his face now as he floated near the teenagers. He could sense they didn't have enough ki for now to try again without passing out, so he decided to get the Dragon Ball himself. It wouldn't be easier if you just teach us how to do it. Vital sighed as he landed in the middle of the duo. For her surprise, he shook his head in denial. You two were having problems before. Forming a ball of energy, even the smallest, was a huge deal for you. Now you even threw it. I'm sure I choose the right way to incentive my pupils. He winked at her and walked to the rock. With his right hand raised, he shoots an energy beam on the hole, making it bigger. When the dust ceased, he already had the Dragon Ball. Well, you two made a progress here, so I'll teach both to fly during our pauses. Both yelled happily and the duo ran to Arasa, who was caught by surprise and greeted with her friend's yells. We are going to fly. They yelled in unison. Gohan cleaned the sweat on his forehead with his towel. He had been training in the woods for hours now, and it was almost time to go help the family he was staying with. He then grabbed his borrowed long-sleeved shirt and put it on. He stretched his muscles, feeling renewed with just a simple act, and started to walk into the house's way. Breathing deeply, made memories of 2 days ago came to him. Piccolo had shown up at the door of the house. The one who saw him first was Zera. Interesting, a Namek that was born evil, but changed to the true form of his soul. On top of it, three souls merged together. The half-Saiyan laughed at the face his mentor did. It was as if the alien was trying to understand what happened. Gohan just couldn't help it. After getting outside with his mentor, he stopped his laugh, turning it into a chuckle. I was surprised at first too. She told me it is a unique ability of her race. I'll tell you more about it later. He put his right hand on Piccolo's shoulder and smiled. Why are you here? The Namek sighed. Dend overreacted. He's sorry, but he doesn't want to be the one to apologize. Gohan nodded with a serious look, which seemed frightening because of his scars. Not that he noticed it. It's okay. I was the one who overreacted first. I guess it's not that bad if they find out about me. That made Piccolo raise one eyebrow. Did Gohan really think about that in the middle of the storm? Or was it the way Den pushed him away? Or the night at that house? Maybe all of it. Well, he said you can go back if you want to, but only if you use instant transmission. Gohan blinked. So, keep training. With that, he tapped his student's back and flew away. Gohan chuckled at the memory, but now he had to help the small family business. They lived half an hour for the center of the village, together with a few farms. Well, they were one too. Surprisingly to the half-breed, all the neighbors didn't have anything against aliens or were related to one to some extent. He was really happy about that. This place represented how he wanted the world to see outsiders, not as enemies. Of course there were enemies out there, but most of them didn't come near Earth. Gohan knew very well the cause, himself. One day when he talked to his father, it has been years now, King Kai told him that his battle with Cell had shown the universe that Earth was a place protected. Only the strongest among the strongest would dare to go mess with the little planet. That was why they were receiving more aliens now. Well, this last part he was oblivious to. He just knew that if someone tried to do any evil to Earth, he'd be there. As he walked near the family he was there to help, a smile appeared. They reminded him of his own family long ago, before his uncle showed up. May was playing near the small truck they had. She was wearing a cute blue dress that was far from clean now as it was dirty with earth powder. He chuckled at the sight, and she too, as the little girl saw him. He had still to be used to her beautiful eyes, as they seemed to see through him. Well, her mother's were without doubt more intense. Ray got closer to him, a smile also on his face while holding a wooden box full of carrots. The man was strong for a human, as a farmer it is. Zero was closing the house door. A red shirt stood out of her pale skin and the blue jeans matched it. After they were done they made their way to the village. May and Gohan sat at the back of the truck, chatting and playing on the way, while her parents chatted inside. It took half an hour, but now they were into the village. Ray stopped the truck near a house. After getting out of it he looked with a smile to Gohan. Can you help me? Since you're stronger. Gohan smiled back. Yeah, sure. He jumped out of the truck and grabbed as many boxes as he could. He didn't want to go back a lot of times after all. Pig back, May said before jumping on his back, surprising the teenager. She was heavier than he thought. Giggling, she put herself on his shoulders. He chuckled too. Well, how can I say no after this? Even with Ray telling her that she shouldn't do something like that, Gohan didn't really mind. All that was light to him. And heck, she wasn't even as annoying as Goten, who wouldn't stop jumping on him. At least she was sitting quietly. Zara is not coming, he asked as he saw the woman still at the truck. She told me that today she'll stay. She has days like that. Gohan nodded and followed the man inside the house, which was bigger than it shows at a first look. It was a kind of market where the farms sold their respective products, and for Gohan's surprise it was full. He wasn't surprised because of the quantity of people, but the kind of people there. Most of it wasn't from the village, as he noticed because of the clothes and speech, and the quantity of aliens. Even so, both didn't mind to stay closer to each other, Humans and aliens lived in harmony in there. Then he got scared. Scared of everything being ruined by Wiki and his hate for aliens. Scared that these people would get hurt. He had to protect them, both sides. It was all he felt in that moment. Surprisingly enough, just a few pointed his scars out, but even that was quickly forgotten, or they got scared at the look he gave them, what for him was just a regular glare, or they just let it go. It didn't take much longer until they got settled. They had the biggest and better carrots this week, Ray said, so it was going to be fast. For some reason these sold in an increased rate. Now we bring you all the man who is cleaning our world. Wiki. The TV at the end of the room got everyone's attention at the mention of the man. It seemed to be a live broadcast. Oh man, what did he do this time? A male alien said near Gohan, and some humans by his side murmured something similar. They all hated Wiki. Hello world, he said cheerful as he walked into the place they were doing the live broadcast. It was different than the last one, but Gohan frowned as he noticed Wiki didn't change anything at all. His gray hair still in that low ponytail and the sunglasses covered his eyes. I came to you all today because we made an unbelievable discover. He put a sad face. After gathering all the data in our first generation keepers, we found out something odd. Some robots had this peculiar memory of, to put it simply, confusion. It seems some humans, he mimicked this part with his fingers, were also diagnosed as aliens. Gohan couldn't hold back his shock and got up fast of his chair, getting attention as the object made a huge noise into the silent room. Aliens and half-aliens started to panic. Of course a little bit of him too. Damn, he murmured. But Wiki wasn't done yet. So, because of that, we are now able to identify those aberrations and capture them. I also have good news for you all. As if it could get even worse, a huge curtain could now be seen at the right side of the place on the TV. I present you all to the second generation of the Keepers. They are even stronger and capable of recognize the half-aliens. As the curtain got up, Gohan gulped. There was an army of number 17 and number 18 look alike, finally finished. As an impulse he run his fingers on his scars in a slow movement. It was as if his mind was making him remember how he get those. Ray noticed it and with a frown he looked at the Keepers and then to Gohan again. The boy had fought those Keepers, and they made those scars. He put a hand on the teenager's shoulder making he look at him. Are you okay? Gohan looked at him for a few seconds before nodding, a mute consent that he was fine. So, now that we have a large number of them, the whole world is going to be safe. Starting now. Everyone gasped. That shouldn't be good. Now, he doesn't mean like, right now, right? A human girl, who in a second look turned into a hybrid, with a type of wings on her back, expressed the feelings of everyone. The room was now full of panic and Gohan noticed that all these aliens weren't warriors type. He had to do something. It was when yells could be heard outside. His mind started to race as he remembered Zero was out there. Damn it. He dashed outside in a flash, but he sure got an unwanted attention of everyone into the room, and all those people dashed after him. What they saw outside was panic, as half-aliens and aliens were running from the new keepers that were already on the village. For a moment Gohan could see Trunks' future, the one he only feared and fought to not come, right in front of him. As he was lost at the sight he didn't notice when Zera took Mei on her arms in a protective way. All he could see were aliens trying to hit without success, and he clenched his fists in angry. He had to do something. After a deep breath he stepped forward, stopping in front of a few robots, his eyes already in the teal color. His features would make any human or alien shiver as the scars made it more scary. Everyone gather together. I'll take you all out of here. He yelled while he was scanned. For a few seconds he thought no one would listen to him, but they gathered anyway. Did they had another chance? Why should we trust you? It was a weak voice. The panic sure made the person scared. Half alien. As soon as the keeper talked, he smiled evilly. He had to get revenge for his face now. With his hand on his watch, he looked at his audience. Because I am. Then at the same time he pressed the button he powered up, the well-known gold color illuminated their eyes. The gold fighter. And with that he used a Kamehameha wave to attack the few keepers in front of him, just to see later that only their arms were gone. He didn't had his visor on, as it was shattered, and his clothes were still dirty with his blood, but all that seemed not to matter as he heard the yells of joy around him. A smile showed how much he appreciated their happiness, but as he saw the number of robots increasing, he had no time. Everyone hold your hands. He dashed to them, asking for some. Put their hands on his body. Putting 2 fingers on his forehead, he took a deep breath. It was now or never. I have to do it. I need to help them. He quickly found his mentor's key and focused on it. The sound of metal steps were getting closer. Closing his eyes, he focused deeper. He couldn't fight all those alone as they would drain his energy once more. He heard the steps stop right in front of him. The aliens around him started to murmur in panic. It was when all got silence. The next thing he heard was Piccolo's voice.